What is the minimum amount of damage you can deal in Stardew Valley? Well, it's 1. Thanks for watching. Now hold on, the video isn't over yet. Okay, so the minimum damage you can deal in Stardew Valley is 1, and it is in fact very easy to get to that number, but I might as well tell you some reasonable ways for you to get there yourself. Now, the easiest way is to get yourself a hold of the carving knife, which does 1 to 3 damage with a +2 crit chance. What a boon for that weapon. Despite the +2 crit chance, I would say that this carving knife is possibly the worst weapon in this entire game, even worse than the starting sword you get, the rusty sword, because at least that has a minimum of 2 damage and a ceiling of 5. And that +2 crit chance, I don't know if it's worth that difference, nor is a dagger's speed, because daggers are hard to hit with anyway. But yeah, if you just want the easy answer, I'll put on some monster musk to make it easier to find some guys. And if you find a carving knife, you can just go to any floor in the mines. I'm in the dangerous mines right now, but point will still stand. And you can just do 1 damage. And you can do it very consistently. Oh, but you can get a crit for 6. Okay, yeah. You see my point. Now, at the beginning of this whole video's concept, I actually wondered to myself if it was possible to get 0 damage. Obviously excluding bugs and such, because here you go, 0 damage. Because in Stardew Valley, there are a couple enemies that can give you negative attack debuffs. So I'm going to try and show you, in fact, what I mean by that. And in the ranges from 10 to 19, 10 to floor 20, in the dangerous mines, there is a squid enemy that has the chance to spawn. Now, I'm going to take out an actually good damaging weapon, my Dragon Tooth Club here, and just try to get down to another floor. A squid appears, this little guy right here, and as with all the other enemies, he'll take next to nothing. But one special attack these squids have, other than just pushing their head into you, is a little bubble that will apply a debuff to you. And I'll try to get this guy to bait it out right here. There is his attack, and if you go up to the right there, you will see that it gives us -20 attack. Now, the way that attack buffs and debuffs in Stardew Valley work is that every 1 point of attack is worth 3 damage points. So that -20 attack, for all intents and purposes in this game, is -60 damage. And I was hoping that if you applied that to extremely weak weapons, that flat debuff might end up taking the number to 0, or possibly even in the negatives if the game is weird enough. But sadly, the game is not weird enough, because we will have this -20 attack, and we will still deal 1 damage to all these enemies with our carving knife. And it's a shame. But there is something crazy about that size of a debuff. And I will say first, these are not the only enemies with a minus attack debuff. He missed me. No, I want that. For testing purposes. There we go. Okay. Before I say that, or before I let this wear off, the magma sprites, the harder ones in the Ginger Island volcano mines dungeon, whatever you want to call them, they also have a debuff that, in addition to being a speed and defense debuff, is an attack debuff. But it's very low. I believe it's only 2 points. So for the demonstration here, I considered this more interesting to see, because if this is a -20 attack debuff, then what does that mean for certain weapons, such as the Infinity Dagger? The Infinity Dagger deals 50 to 70 damage in addition to all of its other buffs. It is considered the strongest dagger in the game. But even the strongest dagger in the game only does 50 to 70 damage. So what happens if we get debuffed by 1 squid and we use the strongest dagger in the game? What happens is we deal 1 damage outside of crits, and only sometimes, but we can still deal 1 damage with the strongest dagger in the game, as long as we're getting a little bit of ink upon us. We can get crits that make us do a lot of damage, but we can also get ones. Thank you for your service, my squid friend. So yeah, it's not only not difficult to just grab your hands on a carving knife from a random drop in the first 20 floors of the mine, but who cares if you can't get a carving knife? Or who cares if you got rid of your old rusty sword? You can take out your endgame, extremely overpowered dagger, come to the dangerous mines, find one single squid, and you two can be putting out ones. Like, I don't know. What's something you put out ones in? I guess you put out ones in the amount of calico eggs if you're me on this file. So yeah, nothing else much to say on minimum damage in Stardew Valley. Attack buffs do not make you go anywhere under 1 damage. You cannot deal 0 damage. You cannot heal enemies with negative damage. And it is shockingly easy to walk up to any enemy in this game and just hit them with a good old 1-1. Not a 1-2. That might actually be doing something. So, either get your hands on this little carving dagger, or get sprayed and shot with a bubble by a squid. Those are my best words of advice for you if you too want to be the weakest man alive. However, what if you don't want to be the weakest man alive? What if you want to be a strong mate, as my character here is? Well, if you want to get the highest damage in the game as opposed to the lowest, what you have to start with is a Dragon Tooth Club. Now, you can get a Dragon Tooth Club as a random drop from the volcano mines back here. And I know you might be thinking to yourself, Dragon Tooth Club is strong, but it's not as strong as something like the Infinity Gavel, which has 100 to 120 damage. So the reason that the Dragon Tooth Club is stronger in terms of max damage output than the Infinity Gavel is because, one, it has this plus 50 crit power buff, which means that crits from a fully upgraded Dragon Tooth will be stronger than crits from an Infinity Gavel. But even if that wasn't the case, we can go even further beyond with this thing. Because the Stardew Valley 1.6 update added to the Forge the ability to stick your weapon in and stick a Dragon Tooth in and give your weapon an innate enchantment. In our case, we just got the Slime Slayer, which is not that useful, so let's do it again. 6 speed, there you go. It's good, but not great for damage. Crit power. That is the golden enchantment right there. Because not only do we have the base 50 crit power, now we have an additional 25 on the Dragon Tooth Club. And you may ask, why is that anything special? It's special because Infinity Gavel cannot get these enchantments. The only weapons in Stardew Valley that can get innate enchantments are weapons level 15 or under. And by being level 14, the Dragon Tooth Club just barely squeaks in to that criteria. And this is plus 25, but the thing is, we can go much better. And in addition to just the other buffs you can get with these things by giving them jades to increase crit power, you can end up with this bad boy right here. It's plus 64 because it's been enchanted 3 times with jades, and it has the max innate enchantment of plus 75 crit power on top of that. This, with the bug killer enchant so that it deals double damage to bugs, is our key to hitting the highest possible damage number in this game. But how do we hit those numbers? Well, there's other ways to buff attacks, such as things like the Magic Rock Candy, which gives the highest attack buff in the game at plus 5. And as I said before, that is equal to 15 more damage on all attacks. But while this is great, it is no longer the only attack buff we can get from food. Plus 5 is not the max attack buff we can get in this game anymore, because 1.6 added something that I'm very happy to tell you about. The Desert Festival Chef, my favorite new limit-making culinary madman, here to give you some buffs that have gone beyond any limits we've had previously. You go to him, you ask for some extremely sharp cheddar and anything else, and he will give you a buff that stacks with any other buff from food or drinks in this game. And in this case, an attack buff. So now we don't just get our +5 for Magic Rock Candy, we get a +8 in total because of this beautiful, interesting looking man right here. Hey, never comment on a man's looks when he can provide you with this much value. Maybe enough to finally kill these creatures. No, I guess not. So now we've got most of the setup out of the way. The other thing that you should do is you can combine rings at the forge, and the best damage buff for our purposes in the game in our rings are combined rings of iridium bands for +10 attack damage and jade rings for +10 critical strike power. And if you put 2 of these on, these are normally the best damage buff in the game. However, you can kind of cheat the system in this game a bit, and I will show you how. There is a ring in Stardew called the Warrior Ring, which says it gives you warrior energy occasionally after slaying a monster. So what does that mean? I will show you, and I got the perfect floor to show this off. It means that if you kill a monster with this ring equipped, there is a chance, if that chance would ever proc, to get this buff called Warrior Energy, which is a massive +10 attack damage buff, but it only lasts for around 5 seconds, so you don't have a lot of time to work with. However, once this buff has been achieved, you can remove the Warrior Ring, put back your combined ring to get back your +10% attack damage and +10 critical strike power, and keep the buff for the length of it. Now, is this normally feasible for anyone who's just running through the game trying to kill things? No, because you have to get the chance of the Warrior Ring buff and then kill everything around you in 5 seconds. That's kind of probably not worth it. In 5 seconds, you could just go up and kill them normally. But for our purposes of trying to hit big numbers that make our brains expand, yeah, you kind of have to do this. And what's worse is that it's not just about using this buff to kill something. No, I have to go and find a bug to get my additional 100% bug killer buff. And I have to hit that bug with a crit. And that crit has to be based on the high roll of 100 base damage from this Dragon Tooth Club. So, yeah, it's going to take a while to get there. But fortunately, I'm the one who has to do that work. And you guys can just watch me splice in some big numbers I've been able to achieve. See you later. It is later, and my goodness, do I have some interesting numbers to show you. Before I go into the actual highs I've hit in terms of this damage in this game, let me just say that when I tried to calculate the possibilities for the damage cap with my setup, I was getting around 3-4k damage, and my actual numbers were quite a bit bigger, which is to say that apparently I don't know how to calculate max damage in this game. So if anyone would like to take a look at my numbers that I will show you in a second and see if I can get even higher than them possibly, please let me know, because apparently I don't know the damage calculation well enough. And also, I'm going to link Mr. Penguin Panda's video on damage calculation, which is a great video, even though I apparently didn't follow it all correctly. But it's where I got a good amount of my information on damage calculation in this game from. So, let me show you some of the whoppers I hit on these bugs in this dangerous mine right here. So that was the max damage I was able to hit with that setup. And I do not know if there's a better setup than what I've outlined in this video for this new update, but with a lot of the additions to it, you can get up to 4114 damage in a single strike, which I don't know if I need to tell you is extremely high and way more than you will ever need to kill anything in this game. So is this useful information, as seems to be a common trend on this channel now? Absolutely not. 5,414 damage is so far above what is necessary for any encounter in this game. But if you're a person out there, man or woman, who likes seeing big numbers on the screen, then I hope I provided. There is a range, as you saw. It could still be under 5,000, even with this whole setup going off and you hitting bugs. But at least for my experimentation, I wasn't able to get higher than 5414 as a single damage number. So that is my highest damage I've achieved in Stardew Valley. And I don't know, I haven't really seen other people post videos, but I believe that's the highest recorded damage since the 1.6 update came out, because anything from the 1.5 update is kind of less relevant now that we have Mr. Chef in the Desert Festival and the crazy amount of innate buffs to the Dragon Tooth Club with the 75 crit power. Man, it's so much. But yeah, if you can get higher than 5414, please let me know. Please post your own image or video or something, because unfortunately I wasn't able to get the calculation down pat perfectly to figure out if 5414 was the ceiling for the damage in this game. But at least in my time experimenting, that's the biggest number I was able to get. So, moral of the story, minimum damage in Stardew Valley, 1. Maximum damage, 5414. At least until someone else disproves me. Have a good day, everyone.